Surrey Police Constable 43-year-old Amanda Aston has been found guilty of 2 counts of perverting the course of justice and 1 count of fraud by false representation following a 3-week trial which concluded this week at Maidstone Crown Court. Aston lied to her colleagues about being the victim of domestic violence in a 57-page witness statement, which then led to former Sergeant Matt Taylor being charged with coercive and controlling behaviour. After being charged, Taylor was given bail conditions, one of which was to not have contact with Aston. However, during the trial, it was heard how Aston repeatedly encouraged Taylor to breach those bail conditions, which he apparently did. Now, is this another example of how the police simply think that they can do what they want, knowing full well that any one of us would be picked up for breaching bail conditions? He should have known better than to break his own. And to be fair, in that respect, regardless to whether the conditions were set based on lies or not, I've no sympathy for the fact that he was caught breaching those conditions and allegedly then spent 2 months in prison for it and lost his job with the force. It's been said that the investigation into Aston's lies included trawling through more than 23,000 messages that were sent and received between the pair on social media and on their phone apps, which apparently showed quite clearly that she'd been talking out of her arse and that she had misled the investigation. Now, I wonder why these messages were not part of the initial investigation into Taylor being abusive and controlling. It seems like the force dropped the ball a little bit on that one. However, lying about her partner wasn't the only offence that Aston partook in. During the investigation into the messages, it was uncovered that she had also made a false application for a £5,000 grant from the Police Welfare Fund in June 2018 by claiming that she had suffered financial hardship as a result of having to move home several times due to Mr. Taylor's alleged behaviour. Chief Superintendent Tom Budd said after the trial that the sentence handed down today follows a challenging and complex investigation against one of our serving officers which uncovered the web of lies Aston had constructed purely because she knew the impact it would have on Mr. Taylor. As well as having to serve time in prison, Mr. Taylor also lost his job as a police officer and his reputation was left in tatters as a result of her lies. The messages between them showed that she was telling him one thing, that she didn't want to support a prosecution and that she loved him and couldn't live without him, while she was telling police something completely different by saying he had contacted her and turned up at various locations unwanted, including one of the addresses she said she had to move to in order to get away from him. Criminal offences committed by our officers and staff simply cannot be condoned. Allegations against any of our officers and staff are always subject to a thorough investigation by our professional standards department in order to ensure that those who do not meet the high standards expected of them in order to maintain public trust and confidence are dealt with swiftly and robustly. Now that the court case has concluded, we will be taking disciplinary action against Aston, which will determine whether she has breached the policing standards of professional behaviour. Now, after being found guilty of perverting the course of justice ×2 and fraud by false representation ×1, Amanda Aston was sentenced by Maidstone Crown Court to 21 months at His Majesty's pleasure. Suspended, of course, for 2 years. She was also ordered to carry out 100 hours of community service. No mention of having to pay back the £5,000 though. So you see, although the male cops seem to be the worst, it's not just the men who will abuse their positions within the police force. And in fact, I would suggest that the women plod could potentially be just as bad, if not worse, than some of the men, as women are more likely to be believed in this world where all men are painted as horrible misogynistic abusers. Of course, Aston's disciplinary hearing will be arranged and heard, and I will let you know the outcome of that.